Alex's CEO wife's childhood sweetheart was back in town. Ever since he'd shown up, she'd been coming home later and later. No big deal, right? After all, we were only married on paper. Yeah, by some fluke, armed with a liberal arts degree that was basically a one-way ticket to unemployment, I'd somehow been handpicked by Julie in advance to be her contract husband, complete with a $10,000 a month salary. And now, with a contract about to expire, being the responsible employee I figured I shouldn't get in the way of my employer's love life. So, I quietly tied up loose ends at work, secretly packed my bags, and took off for some idyllic, off-the-grid spot to eat, drink, and be merry. Freedom at last. Except, when I woke up the next morning, I found my hands and feet shackled to the bedposts. My gorgeous CEO wife was lying on top of me, a small, knowing smile playing on her lips. I don't recall saying you could leave, Alex. You've got some nerve running off like that. Her eyes held a dangerous, almost feverish glint. A moment later, she was tearing at my clothes, and the bedroom instantly became the stage for a war waged without weapons, but with plenty of casualties. 1. Senior year of college was winding down, and my prospects were looking grim. My major, one of those follow-your-passion deals that employers apparently didn't share the passion for, hadn't landed me a single decent job offer. I tried for grad school, applied for government jobs, bombed every interview, got cut at the final round every single time. The competition was brutal. Ugh, can a guy catch a break? I leaned back in my desk chair and groaned to the ceiling. The few interviews I'd actually landed were for gigs that either expected unpaid trial periods or wanted to work you like a rented mule. 1 day off a month, no health insurance, no benefits, nothing. Just kill me now. What kind of life is this? Frustrated beyond belief, I grunted and pulled up LinkedIn again, sorting by most recent and firing off applications to anything that looked remotely plausible. I must have sent out hundreds, maybe even 1,000, that afternoon. My fingers ached. I finally gave up and crawled into bed, planning to just rest for a bit. Next thing I knew, it was past 9 at night. My roommate, David, was shaking me awake. Alex, you okay, man? You've been out for a while. Seeing the concern on his face, I waved a dismissive hand. Yeah, fine, just exhausted from the application marathon this afternoon. Needed a break. David relaxed a little. Don't sweat it, man. You'll find something. I know you will. Thanks, dude. No problem. Hey, I figured you missed dinner, so I grabbed your burrito. It's on your desk. He pointed to a foil-wrapped package. You're a lifesaver, seriously, man, thank you. I hopped out of bed, unwrapped the loaded burrito, and inhaled the delicious aroma. So, how much do I owe you? I'll Venmo you. I pulled out my phone. Nah, don't worry about it. It wasn't much. Just buy us all dinner when you land that killer job. Okay, deal? A fancy dinner on me. After devouring the burrito, I headed out for a walk around the campus track to clear my head. It was pretty crowded, people jogging, strolling, a couple of guys even had guitars out, singing off-key. It was a nice vibe, and my mood lifted a bit. Ring, ring. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. Hello. I answered. Good evening. This is Novatech Solutions. Am I speaking with Alex Miller? A very professional, customer service-wise voice came through the line. My first thought was scam call. I was about to hang up, but something made me pause. All right, fine. I'll humor the scammer a little. Post-burrito entertainment. Can you hear me, sir? The voice inquired, as I hadn't said anything. Loud and clear. Yep, go on, I replied quickly. Excellent. We were wondering if you might be available for an in-person interview at our offices tomorrow. A smirk played on my lips. My grip tightened on the phone. Oh, I see. Just trying to hit their interview quotas. Sure. Novatech Solutions, you said? I'll be there. Wonderful. We look forward to meeting you. After hanging up, I stared at the call log, a cynical smile on my face. Yeah, right. As if I'm going to that. Back in the dorm, I told my roommates about the scam call, expecting them to laugh along. Instead, Thomas, who was glued to his phone, suddenly yelled, Dude, Novatech Solutions. They're huge. Super big deal around here lately. He explained that Novatech was a rising star in the tech industry, a real innovator. Huh. Then why would they call me for an interview? I was genuinely baffled. My roommates looked just as surprised. Hey, if you make it big, don't forget the little people. They chorused, slapping me on the shoulder. They're probably just using my application to pad their numbers, I reasoned. It was the only explanation that made sense. Why else would a company like that want to interview me? Go anyway, man. What have you got to lose? Good interview practice, right? Yeah. Worst case, it's just an experience. Best case, you actually get it. My roommates took turns convincing me, and well, they had a point. I might as well go. If by some miracle I actually got in, that would be insane, too. So, the next morning, I showered, put on the best clothes I owned, which wasn't saying much, and gave myself a once-over in the mirror. I scrubbed up okay, I guess. With a theatrical flourish, I swung the door open and headed out. All right, guys, wish me luck. Your boy's gonna bring home the bacon. Standing outside the Novatech Solutions building, a sleek, modern high-rise that seemed to scrape the clouds, my confidence wavered. The name, Novatech Solutions, was emblazoned everywhere. A company this big, can I really pass this interview? Despite my earlier bravado, my stomach was doing flip-flops. I told the receptionist I was there for an interview, and she led me to an elevator. As we ascended, I closed my eyes and took deep breaths, trying to calm my racing heart. The glass walls of the elevator offered a dizzying view of the city below, which didn't help. The elevator chimed and stopped. I started to step out, but the receptionist gently stopped me. Not your floor yet, sir. Oh, right, oops. Sorry. I mumbled an apology and stepped back, feeling like an idiot. My anxiety spiked. I just wanted this whole thing to be over so I could escape. Just then, the elevator doors swished open again, and a woman stepped in. She was wearing a chic, tailored pantsuit, and she was, to put it mildly, stunning. The receptionist greeted her respectfully. Good morning, Ms. Vance. Is this one of today's interviewees? Ms. Vance glanced at me briefly, then directed her question to the receptionist. Yes, Ms. Vance, he is. Ms. Vance, the CEO? I couldn't believe I'd run into someone so high up right off the bat. My nervousness intensified, but a flicker of curiosity sparked, too. I'd always pictured CEOs as stuffy, middle-aged guys in their 50s. This woman couldn't have been much older than 30. Were even top executives getting younger these days? Soon, the elevator arrived at the interview floor. Ms. Vance stepped out first. The receptionist then guided me to a waiting area outside an office. The waiting area was lined with chairs, all occupied by young men in sharp suits, looking every bit the polished professionals. I glanced down at my own casual shirt and jeans. I was clearly out of my league. Hey, I sidled up to one of the guys who was sitting ramrod straight and whispered, You guys all here for interviews? The man gave me a strange look, then replied in a perfectly modulated, almost newscaster-like voice, Indeed. Then he turned away, meticulously adjusting his tie, clearly done with me. Those two curt syllables squashed any further desire to make small talk. As candidates were called in one by one, my anxiety grew. Try to bail now. The thought was tempting, but then I imagined the ribbing I'd get from my roommates. I couldn't face them if I chickened out. So, I forced myself to stay put, silently chanting, Don't be nervous. Don't be nervous. They're all just big, dumb animals. Yeah, my pep talks needed work. After what felt like an eternity, okay, probably an hour and a half, it was finally my turn. I walked in and saw 3 people sitting behind a large desk. One was a woman with glasses who looked very serious. Next to her was someone with a completely opposite vibe, a warm, gentle smile. And a third person, none other than Ms. Vance, the CEO I'd met in the elevator. My heart did a little lurch, but I managed to find a chair and sit down without tripping. The serious-looking interviewer glanced up at me, then back down at my resume on the table. Mr. Miller, please tell us what you know about our company. I'd done a quick Google search before coming, so I recounted what little I'd learned about Novatech. She didn't say much, just made a few notes on my resume. I couldn't tell if that was good or bad. Then she asked a few more generic questions, none of them related to my actual major, which made sense because as far as I could tell, my academic background had absolutely nothing to do with what this company did. To be honest, I still had no idea why my resume had even made it through the initial screening, let alone landed me an interview. Did I even apply to this place? After about 10 minutes of this, the interviewer finally looked up and asked the last question. Tell us about your career goals. Career goals? I paused, considering whether to trot out some canned answer I'd found online, but then I figured, what the hell? Honesty was the best policy, right? Honestly, to make good money. As soon as the words left my mouth, I heard a soft chuckle from the gentle-looking interviewer. What? Like you're not here for a paycheck? I thought. All right then, Mr. Miller, the serious one said. Thank you for your time. We'll be in touch regarding our decision within 1 to 3 business days. As I walked out, I glanced back. The friendly interviewer was leaning over, pointing at my resume and giggling with the serious one, who was sighing and trying to wave her away. But the friendly one persisted. And Ms. Vance at the end of the table, who hadn't said a word the entire time, was just looking down at a copy of my resume, a thoughtful expression on her face. Once I was out of the building and back on the street, I looked up at the gleaming tower. Well, that's that. I'm the kind of guy who gets down easily, but bounces back fast. After wandering around the area for a bit and grabbing a quick lunch, I hopped on a bus back to campus. Back in the dorm, I recounted the interview saga to my roommates. They were all sympathetic about what seemed like a long shot, but also encouraging. Don't worry, man, you'll find something eventually. Their support actually meant a lot. So on a whim, I treated them to dinner that night. My thinking was, who knows, when I land a job, we might all be scattered to the winds. Might as well celebrate something now. After dinner, it was back to the grind, endlessly tweaking my resume, firing off applications. The days blurred into a monotonous cycle. That Novatech interview faded into the background, just one more in a long line of rejections, or so I assumed, until one day my phone rang. I answered, and a familiar professional voice came on the line. Hello, may I speak to Alex Miller? This is Novatech Solutions. We're pleased to inform you that you've passed your interview. If you're still interested, please come to our office next Monday with the necessary documents to complete your onboarding. We'll email you a list of what's required. If you have any questions or concerns, please don't hesitate to contact us. I was stunned. Which company was this again? It was only after I checked the email they sent that it clicked. Novatech Solutions, the company I'd interviewed at 3 weeks ago. I'd actually gotten the job. I couldn't believe it. I shared the news with my roommates, and we immediately went out for another celebratory meal, this time a bit more extravagant. Come Monday, I found myself standing in front of the Novatech building again, but this time my heart was pounding with excitement, not dread. I, Alex Miller, was actually going to work here. After checking in with the receptionist, I found myself in that same familiar elevator. She guided me to an office. I knocked. A voice from inside said, "Come in." The receptionist gestured for me to enter, then excused herself. Taking a deep breath, I opened the door, my palms sweating. And there, sitting behind the desk, was none other than Juliana Vance, the CEO of Novatech. She was engrossed in some documents, only looking up when she heard my footsteps. She glanced at me, her expression unreadable. "Have a seat." "Okay." I nodded, then awkwardly perched on the edge of a plush sofa, not sure what to do with my hands. About half an hour passed in silence. Finally, Juliana stood up, retrieved a folder from a nearby cabinet, and handed it to me. "Take a look at this. If everything's in order, sign it." Sure. I never imagined the CEO herself would be handling my onboarding. I took the folder and opened it. As I read the first page, I shot up from the sofa as if I'd been electrocuted. Marriage. 4. I was utterly dumbfounded. Why on earth was she handing me a marriage contract? It was all spelled out in black and white. I, Alex Miller, was to marry a woman named Juliana Vance. It was a contractual agreement, purely to satisfy her family, apparently. In return, I'd receive a monthly salary of $10,000. My only duty was to play the part of her loving husband at specific family gatherings and social events. Juliana, observing my shock, didn't seem surprised at all. She sat down on the sofa opposite me, her posture elegant. The line of her neck was long and pale. "Are there any conditions you're not satisfied with? We could discuss them." I pointed to the name on the document. "This Juliana Vance." "Is that me?" she stated, her expression perfectly calm, as if we were discussing what to have for lunch. Looking at her, at this beautiful, powerful woman, why would she choose me for something like this? But then again, who cares why? Whatever her reasons, what did it matter to me? I looked at the very generous terms of the agreement, then quickly grabbed the pen beside me and signed my name. Seriously, what was there to be unsatisfied with? 10 grand a month? Most recent grads would kill for that kind of money. This wasn't just a good deal, it was a freaking lottery win. She seemed pleased with my swift compliance. She took one copy of the signed contract and handed me the other. Then, With a subtle wave of her hand, she indicated I should follow her out. I trailed behind her meekly, ready to do whatever she asked. She was my boss, my benefactor, practically my fairy godmother at this point. As we walked out of her office, employees we passed greeted her with respectful nods, and Ms. Vance. I felt a little awkward tagging along behind her, like some kind of kept man, a pretty boy living off her. But so what? Money was money. I wasn't breaking any laws, not doing anything immoral. It was just a job. Downstairs, Juliana tossed me a set of car keys. Can you drive? Looking at the keys in my hand, they looked expensive. I almost blurted out that I hadn't touched a steering wheel much since getting my license. But then I thought, what if she fired me over this and found someone else? This was a $10,000 a month job, one of a kind. If I couldn't drive, I'd damn well learn on the spot. Yes, I declared with a confidence that almost convinced myself. So, I fumbled my way to the parking garage and with trembling hands, managed to get her luxury sedan out of its spot. Thankfully, after a few minutes of navigating the garage, the muscle memory from driving school started to kick back in. Juliana didn't seem to notice I was a complete novice. She just settled into the passenger seat. Ms. Vance, where to? City Hall. She buckled her seat belt, glanced at her phone, and replied without looking at me. Ah, so we were getting a marriage license just like that. What? You don't want to go? As soon as the surprised sound escaped me, her sharp gaze shot towards me. I quickly waved my hands, explaining, oh no, it's not that. It's just, do we really need to go to City Hall for a fake marriage? Couldn't we just, get a fake certificate made? No, they have connections. They can check if it's real. I guess she meant her parents. Still, what era was this? I couldn't believe a CEO as successful as her was still being pressured into a marriage by her parents. Tragic, really. If I were that successful, my family definitely wouldn't. Okay, yeah, they probably still would. The older generation always thinking that once your career's set, it's time to settle down. See? Nobody has it easy, huh? I cast a look of profound sympathy toward Juliana. She seemed to notice. Her brow furrowed slightly, and she turned her head to look out the window. The car moved smoothly down the road. Anyone watching would have praised the driver for being a law-abiding citizen. Someone, however, wasn't too pleased. Juliana's brow knitted. She looked at me. Can you speed it up a little? This pace is. Safety first, Ms. Vance, I said, though I did gradually increase the speed. A moment ago, a kid on a rental scooter had actually overtaken us. Fortunately, we made it to City Hall without incident, albeit a bit slowly. Because the company, well, Juliana, had already reminded me to bring my ID and other necessary documents, which I thought was weird at the time, just figuring it was some quirky company policy. Getting the marriage license was surprisingly quick and easy. Looking at our photo on the marriage certificate, I felt a wave of disbelief. If I told anyone about this, who would believe me? I let out a sigh, only to hear a cool voice from behind me. Moving to my parents' house. 5. Huh. I was so shocked I almost yelped. You or your parents' house? I asked cautiously. Isn't that a bit fast? She glanced at me, her tone also a little uneasy. I've already told my parents I got married, so now I need to bring you to meet them. That sentence sent a jolt through me. Meeting the parents right after getting the license? I wasn't prepared for this at all. Ms. Vance, should I buy something? A gift? I asked quietly, glancing at Juliana as we drove. After all, a CEO's parents must be sophisticated, imposing figures. A nobody like me would probably be seen through in an instant. She shook her head. I've already taken care of the gifts. Oh, okay. Not knowing what else to say, I just nodded. When we're there, if my parents ask about us, just keep smiling. That's all you need to do, Juliana said suddenly. But wouldn't that seem rude or fake? I hesitated. That would only make things look more suspicious. She shook her head again. It's fine. I'll do the explaining. The less you say, the fewer chances for slip-ups. Soon, we arrived at Juliana's family home. It was exactly what you'd expect from a standalone house in an affluent suburb, impeccably landscaped and looking like something out of a magazine. I got out of the car, respectfully opened the passenger door for Juliana, and helped her out. Anyone watching would have assumed I was just her driver. Little did they know I was technically the husband of this glamorous, beautiful CEO. After retrieving the gifts from the trunk, I followed Juliana towards the house. As we neared the front door, I saw an elderly couple standing there, beaming, looking incredibly warm and friendly. Mom, Dad, what are you doing waiting out here? Mom and Dad, so these are my new in-laws. I remembered Juliana's instructions. Just keep smiling. So this is our son-in-law? Is he? The couple wasn't at all like the stereotypical harsh in-laws from cheesy soap operas. Instead, they enthusiastically took the gift from my hands, chiding gently. Oh, you shouldn't have. Just coming is enough. Come in, come in. They took my hands and cheerfully led me inside, completely forgetting about their daughter trailing behind. Juliana didn't seem upset. She just shot me a look, reminded me not to say anything foolish, and then followed us in. Once inside, I was immediately surrounded by the two enthusiastic parents. They smiled warmly and asked about my family, my background, everything. I couldn't just keep smiling blankly at that. I glanced at Juliana. Only after she gave a subtle nod did I start answering their questions, still smiling. Somehow, they seemed genuinely pleased with me. They kept telling me to be patient with Juliana's bad temper, saying that although she seemed cold, she was actually a good kid. Then they proceeded to spill every embarrassing childhood story about Juliana they could think of. Mom, Dad, Juliana interrupted, clearly annoyed that they were unearthing her dark past in front of me. Who does that on the first meeting with her son-in-law? Juliana's mother ignored her, grabbing my hand and patting it approvingly. Look at this boy. Isn't he wonderful? So much better than that Alex Connor. Mom, Juliana frowned, shooting her mother an exasperated look, then glanced at me. I got the message instantly. Time to metaphorically cover my ears. Rich family gossip was not for my consumption, but I pretty much pieced it together. I was the stand-in for Juliana's unattainable love, her one that got away. Based on years of reading trope web novels, Juliana and this Alex guy must have had a thing. Then he went abroad, and I, Alex Miller, just happened to bear a resemblance to him. That explained why I got hired. It all made sense. I felt like a genius for figuring it out. I almost applauded myself, but then I saw Juliana's warning. Hey, lady, it's not like I wanted to hear this. Your mom's just incredibly enthusiastic. I wanted to cover my ears, but both my hands were firmly held by her parents. All right. Say a few words and you get all sensitive, her mom said to Juliana, then turned back to me, ignoring Juliana's displeasure. Your father and I just think this young Alex is a fine young man. They then cheerfully gave me a tour of the sprawling house. At lunchtime, the two of them actually insisted on cooking for me themselves. Luckily, I'd gone through a phase of trying to learn to cook a while back, so I offered to help out in the kitchen. This seemed to impress them even more. Juliana, however, looked less than thrilled. Oops. I'd been enjoying myself and forgot my role. I'd inadvertently upstaged the boss. So, at the dinner table, I made sure to constantly praise Juliana's competence and thoughtfulness. It didn't seem to have much effect, though. Her expression remained cool and distant. You poor dear. You must have a lot to put up with. We know what our Juliana can be like, her parents said, looking at me with expressions of pity despite my praises. This wasn't going as planned. After dinner, we chatted with her parents for a bit longer before Juliana nudged my arm, signaling it was time to leave. After politely declining their insistence that we stay longer, we began to drive back to the city. 6. On the way back, Juliana was silent. I didn't dare ask what was wrong, nor did I particularly want to. Why go looking for trouble? So, I just focused on driving. When we got back to the Novatech building, she gave a few instructions to her secretary, then headed to her office without a word to me. I stood there for a moment, feeling a bit lost. So much had happened today. Mr. Miller? The secretary approached me, holding a file folder. Ms. Vance asked me to give this to you. Thank you. You're welcome, she said, but then just stood there. I ignored her, sat on a nearby sofa, and opened the folder. Inside, I found a set of keys, a bank card, and a single sheet of paper. I unfolded the paper. It says, one of these keys is for the villa, the other is for a car I've arranged for you. You can use it as you please. It would be best if you moved into the villa today. My parents might drop by unannounced, so your cooperation is needed. I will deposit your salary into this bank account each month. The PIN is the last 6 digits of your date of birth. Other details are listed below. Please read them carefully and adhere to them. Below, there was a list of rules. The main points boiled down to 3 things. First, we would have separate rooms in the villa. Neither of us was to enter the other's private space without permission. A housekeeper would take care of cleaning. Second, I needed to prioritize her needs in all situations. Exceptions could be made for important family matters on my side, but I had to inform her in advance. Otherwise, my time is my own. Third, during the contract period, I was not to disclose the nature of our agreement to anyone. If the fake marriage secret leaked because of me, I would have to repay 3 times my total salary. These terms were mostly in the original contract, but she'd reiterated them, probably worried I hadn't read it carefully enough. I stuffed the items back into the folder. Then I looked at the secretary, impeccably dressed in her business attire, and let out a deep sigh. To be honest, this was freaking awesome. I wasn't about to pull a drama queen move like those male leads in romance novels, getting all teary-eyed because the cold CEO ignored me. And I certainly wasn't going to go out of my way to do things she hadn't asked for, like waiting up for her every night to make her a hot meal, or if she had a headache, frantically trying to learn ancient massage techniques to ease her pain. And definitely not stressing over what birthday or anniversary gifts to get her, or feeling heartbroken if I saw her talking to another guy. What even is all that? Business is business. Cleaning, cooking, she had professionals for that. Did I really think my amateur skills could compare to people who dedicated their lives to it? And if she got sick, she'd go to a doctor. If the hospital couldn't fix it, was I supposed to magically master herbal medicine in a few days and cure her? Get real. As for gifts, dude, a woman like her has seen and owned every rare and precious thing imaginable. Would she really be touched by some handmade trinket just because I made it? That's just self-indulgent nonsense. Just thinking about those cliches gave me a headache. So, seeing that Juliana clearly didn't expect any of that from me, I was ecstatic. Doing basically nothing, living in a huge villa, eating good food, and pulling in 10 grand a month. Was this real life? I pinched my thigh. Ouch. Okay, it was real. Is this real life? Yes, it is. Whoa, 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 whoa. Ms. Vance, I received everything and thank her for me. I felt a bit embarrassed. She'd probably seen my idiotic grin. The secretary nodded. Of course, Mr. Miller. Then she turned and left. Phew. I looked at the folder in my hands, a wave of pure joy washing over me. Without a second thought, I pulled out my phone and called my roommates. My bros. Guys, dinner's on me tonight. Pick the most expensive place in town. Order whatever you want. 7. That evening, four figures stumbled down the street arm in arm, all thoroughly drunk. In the end, my roommates had let me take them to some fancy restaurant. Instead, we'd ended up at a casual sports bar, downing pitchers of beer and mountains of wings and sliders. It was a little bittersweet, actually. We'd lived together for 4 years, closer than some families. We were all good friends, but in a few months, we'd be going our separate ways. There was an undeniable sadness that I in the air. Hey, it's okay, I said, clapping my hands to try and lift the mood. Once we're all settled in our jobs, we'll get together all the time, right? A silence fell over us. We all knew the truth. For many people, once you part ways after college, that's it, forever. Maybe we'd be like most, drifting apart as time went on, but the moments we were sharing now, those were real. The feelings were genuine. I'm planning to move back home after graduation, David Fisher said suddenly. He'd found a decent job near his hometown. He was from a single-parent family. His mom had raised him alone, and her health wasn't great. He wanted to be close by to take care of her. I'm heading to Miami, Thomas Rivera announced. We all knew his girlfriend was from Florida. For Thomas, a tough guy from way up north, this was a cross-country love affair. I'm going to grad school, Mark Foster added. He'd gotten into Stanford and was planning to continue his studies. He'd been working incredibly hard since junior year, juggling internships and research projects with professors. Seeing everyone with their plans laid out, I felt a mix of emotions. I picked up a stray stir stick from the table and waved it around dramatically. Well then, I guess I'll just be a kept man. The other 3 stared at me for a second, then burst out laughing. Well, here's hoping you find a rich sugar mama to take care of you. Just watch out for those steel wool back scratchers. You think your body can handle it? If not, bro, I got you. We all roared with laughter, grabbing more stirrers and mock-dueling with them. We joked and horsed around, cherishing these last few moments together, until a sleek black Porsche pulled up beside us. The window glided down, revealing a stunning, confident face. Juliana Vance. Get in. My roommates and I froze. They looked at each other, then pointed at themselves dumbly, as if to say, us? But I sobered up instantly. This was my benefactor, my big boss. Can't keep her waiting. I quickly waved to my friends. Gotta go, guys. It's been real. Catch you on the flip side. To their astonished gazes, I reached for the back door handle out of habit, then quickly corrected myself. This wasn't a cab, and opened the front passenger door, sliding in with an apologetic smile. Sorry, I mumbled. Today was because. No need to apologize. Juliana cut me off, her brow slightly furrowed. She cracked the window open a bit and leaned slightly towards it. It seemed she really disliked the smell of alcohol. I just happened to be passing by and thought I'd give you a lift. I shut up, feeling awkward. The silence in the car was thick. Maybe I should drive. The words slipped out before I could stop myself. I was thinking it wasn't right for the boss to be chauffeuring me, completely forgetting I'd been drinking. Juliana glanced at me, her tone flat, unreadable. No need. We drove to the villa in silence. I'd already moved my essential belongings over that afternoon. As soon as we were inside, Juliana disappeared into her room. I stood there, unsure what to do. Each bedroom had its own bathroom. I took a quick shower, then lay on my bed, scrolling through my phone. Since the boss didn't need me for anything, it was best to stay out of her way and not cause any trouble. After all, I was just the stand-in. As I played on my phone, a wave of drowsiness hit me, probably the alcohol, or maybe just the aftermath of an exciting day. I decided to hit the bathroom one last time before bed. As I reached my door, I heard a faint noise from outside. Peeking through a crack in the door, I saw Juliana. She'd changed into a pale blue loungewear set and was sitting on the sofa, laptop open, looking serious as she worked on something. No wonder she was a CEO at such a young age. Me? I was born lazy. Time to wash up and sleep. After using the bathroom, I felt much better. I climbed into bed and was asleep almost instantly. 8. The next morning, sunlight streamed into my room. I frowned. I was sure I'd closed the curtains last night. I sat up, groaning. My whole body ached. Why did a few beers make me feel like I'd been run over by a truck? Weird. After a quick wash, I opened my door and found breakfast already laid out on the dining table, along with a note. After you eat, report to the office and read the contract addendum carefully. I immediately grabbed the folder with the contract and scanned the addendum. That's when I saw it. During this period, I was to serve as assistant to the CEO. It all clicked. I'd basically skipped work yesterday. No wonder she'd seemed so annoyed. Damn, this $10,000 a month wasn't going to be easy money after all. I wolfed down the slightly burnt toast and rushed to the office. The last thing I needed was a pay deduction. When I arrived at Novatech, people greeted me with "Morning, Mr. Miller," or "Hello, Alex." The title assistant to the CEO was music to my ears, and I almost floated to Juliana's office suite. I knocked before entering. "Come in, Ms. Vance. What can I do for you?" Juliana sat behind her large desk, reviewing a document. She wore gold-rimmed glasses that, combined with her silk blouse, made her look incredibly alluring. "Sit over there for now." She gestured to an empty desk adjacent to hers. "Review these files. I want your opinion on them later." So a test. I knew this money wouldn't come without strings. Taking a deep breath, I sat down and started reading. A long while later, Juliana put down her pen and looked over at me, her expression as cool as ever. "Well, your thoughts?" I put down the papers, took another breath, and began to outline my analysis of the pros and cons of the different proposals. In my opinion, the first proposal. I laid out my understanding of each document. Juliana listened with a neutral expression throughout. Only when I finished did she nod slowly and say, "Not bad." A little thrill went through me. "Okay, fine. I'm a sucker for praise. Proceed according to your recommendations." Juliana simply arched an eyebrow and said nothing more. She trusts me that much? No answer. And just like that, the first project I was significantly involved in was greenlit. Fortunately, a few months later, the results were excellent. After that, Juliana started taking me to more and more meetings. She entrusted me with major responsibilities, including project reporting and management oversight. People who initially thought I was just some pretty boy who'd lucked into his position gradually began to respect my abilities. As for why Juliana was helping me so much, I slowly started to form a few theories. 1. Perhaps I really did look a lot like her, one that got away, Adrian. Maybe she was paving the way for him. If someone who looked like him made a good impression, it would be easier for the real deal later. 2. Since I was technically her husband, she naturally wanted me to achieve things so it wouldn't look like she'd married a complete loser. My success reflected well on her. 3. Juliana still had rivals within the company. By fast-tracking my development, she could turn me into a valuable ally, helping her consolidate her power and weaken her opponents. And so, over the next 2 years, I participated in countless meetings and projects. My skills improved dramatically. Even if after the 3-year contract was up I had to leave, I was confident I could quickly find a well-paying job. My relationship with Juliana also evolved from distant formality to a kind of cautious familiarity. But her expression remained stubbornly cool, as if nothing could ever truly faze her. Oh wait, that's not entirely true. There were a few times. 9. One night, I hadn't eaten enough for dinner and woke up starving. Bleary-eyed, I stumbled into the kitchen and made myself a bowl of instant ramen. The aroma was divine. Just as I took my first blissful bite, I heard a distinct stomach growl. Then I noticed Juliana sitting on the sofa with her laptop, the room dimly lit. She scared the life out of me. Why was she sitting there in the near dark? Because I was at the dining table near the kitchen and had been half asleep when I came out. I hadn't seen her. Would you like some? I offered. If that growl wasn't mine, then. Juliana glanced at the ramen in my hands, then turned her head away. I knew it. Someone like her wouldn't eat plebeian food like that. The next moment, Juliana put down her laptop, walked over, picked up my bowl of ramen, sat down at the table, and began eating it in small, delicate bites. Okay, you win. I went back and made myself another bowl, this time adding an egg and some leftover ham. Happily carrying it to the table, I'd just taken my first bite when I felt an odd stare. I looked up to see Juliana eyeing my bowl with a strange, almost resentful expression. Silently, I pointed at my bowl, a questioning look on my face. Without a word, Juliana reached over, took my new, improved bowl of ramen, and pushed her half-eaten, salivating bowl towards me. You've got to be kidding me. Staring at the bowl she'd left me, I pondered deeply. Could I get H. pylori from this? Whatever, dig in. Actually pretty good. Another time, I got really into drawing. After much practice, I finally produced what I considered a masterpiece that would make angels weep. I proudly hung it on the living room wall, planning to take it down before Juliana got home. But then I got an urgent call from the office and had to dash out. When I returned, the cute anime-style schoolgirl in my drawing, who'd originally been sporting a short skirt, was now wearing a very prim, long skirt. And the only other person around was Juliana, sitting on the sofa, engrossed in a book. Some kid from the neighborhood did it, she said airily. I looked around. It was true that sometimes neighbors or her parents' friends would bring their kids over. Okay, I believed her. With a heavy heart, I reached to take the drawing down, but Juliana stopped me. Just leave it there. I gave her a puzzled look. Juliana coughed lightly. It's not bad, actually. Then she turned and went back to her room. A huge grin spread across my face. She's got good taste. Then there was the time the company organized a flower arranging workshop. I joined in for fun and, to my utter surprise, actually won first prize. I was so pleased with myself that I placed my arrangement in the most prominent spot in the living room, admiring it smugly. It added a bit of color to the otherwise minimalist space. The next day, half the flowers in my vase were gone, replaced by some other flowers I didn't recognize, and the arrangement itself had been altered. It actually looked a bit better. I made some improvements, Juliana said, walking over. She glanced at me, then at the flowers, a faint, dismissive smile on her lips. Outrageous. This was practically workplace bullying. And so, my improved flower arrangement and my modified drawing remain on display, the first things you saw when you walked in the door. It was still a little embarrassing, though. Our days passed one by one. During holidays like Thanksgiving and Christmas, I'd accompany Juliana to her parents' place, and to my surprise, Juliana would also come with me to visit my parents. Initially, I thought that part wasn't necessary. As long as her parents were placated, that should be enough, right? But Juliana had said, My parents will want to meet yours eventually. It's inevitable. She was right. Somewhere along the line, Juliana's parents and my parents hit it off famously. The two families got along incredibly well. Juliana's parents were very down to earth and never put on airs just because my family was more middle class. My dad and Juliana's father started playing chess regularly. Sometimes they'd sneak off to go fishing, hiding it from Juliana's mom and my mom, the tigress, as Dad called her. They'd spend all day and not catch a thing, then stop by the fish market on the way home to buy a few to save face. My mom and Juliana's mom would go shopping together, get their hair done, and occasionally even ditch the two old guys to go on short trips. Oh, darling, thank you for Alex. Putting up with my Juliana. You know her temper. No, it's I who should thank Juliana for giving my lazy boy something productive to do. They'd chat for hours, so enthusiastically that they even started looking at baby clothes and cribs. How did things escalate to this point? 10. What a wedding. I stared at her in shock. Juliana was frowning, too, a rare look of distress on her face. Mom and Dad are pushing for it. They're really insistent. It made sense, I guess. She was their precious daughter, and Juliana and I had only gotten a license. They probably felt she deserved a grand wedding. Do we really have to? What about Juliana's side? Yes, let's do it. Just enough to keep them happy. All right then. A wedding. Just a ceremony. Why was I suddenly feeling nervous? Soon, we were contacting wedding planners, making arrangements. Juliana seemed surprisingly invested in the details. Well, it was probably her first wedding, too, I figured. It was only much later that I realized why she was so keen. What? I'll be right there. Juliana's expression was grim as she hung up the phone. What's wrong? I asked. Juliana frowned, hesitating for a moment before saying, There's a problem at the factory that handled that last project. We need to go there now. Okay, let's go. I quickly gathered my things and we headed out. It was drizzling when we left the office. I went to the garage to get the car. My driving skills had improved considerably by then. Throughout the drive, Juliana's brow remained furrowed. She seemed to be mulling over something important. The factory was in an industrial park on the outskirts, a bit remote. Due to the rain, I wasn't driving too fast, but we were making good time. Wait. Juliana started to say something, but then there was a loud pop, thump. The car lurched violently to one side. I immediately slammed on the brakes and wrestled with the wheel, managing to bring the car to a screeching halt just inches from careening under a speeding semi-truck that flew past us. Both of us were pale, shaken. Juliana's eyes narrowed. She threw open her door and got out. I followed, and then we saw them. A line of caltrops scattered behind the car, and standing ahead of us, a group of men in ski masks wielding steel pipes. This was not good. You're Marcus Thorne's men, aren't you? Juliana's voice was cold. Marcus Thorne was the leader of a rival faction in the company, and he and Juliana had always been at odds. I didn't think you'd stoop to such tactics to lure me out. Her gaze was icy as she faced him. Thinking back, she must have realized something was wrong just before the tire blew, but it had been too late. Whatever he's paying you, I'll give you 10 times more. You know who's really in charge of the company now. Her voice was steady, authoritative. I can forgive what just happened. Forget it ever occurred. In fact, I'll arrange better positions for you as long as you testify that Marcus Thorne sent you. Faced with these temptations, the men didn't respond. They just charged. Watching this, I couldn't help but think, Boss, these guys aren't going to listen to that. It's too cliché. As the men rushed towards us, Juliana sighed, then looked at me. When I give the signal, run as fast as you can. I've had training. I can handle a few thugs. Her voice, usually so cool, sounded strangely vulnerable. Yet, there was a faint, almost sad smile on her lips. What the hell? Well, she said run. I was in a run. See ya. I turned and bolted. Juliana watched my retreating back, a flicker of loneliness and sorrow in her eyes. Then she drew a small, slim knife she always carried, her expression hardening as she faced the oncoming attackers. Thwack, thump, crack, whoop, whoop, whoop. A series of sickening impacts. Juliana's eyes widened in disbelief. Standing in front of her, where I'd been moments before, was a figure wielding a rolled-up black umbrella. All around him, the masked men lay groaning on the wet asphalt. I turned back to Juliana, a slight smile on my face. Turns out, I know a few moves myself. Juliana stared at me, and for the first time, a genuine smile touched her lips. Boss, how much further do we have to walk? I was carrying Juliana on my back. She was holding the umbrella over us as we trudged slowly along the empty road. She claimed she twisted her ankle when she got out of the car, so now I was her mode of transport. And for some reason, there was absolutely no cell signal out here. Going to the factory was out. It was clearly a trap. The car was disabled, so my only option was to carry her and hope a passing vehicle would give us a ride. But that hope dwindled with every step. We walked for what felt like miles, and not a single car passed. Looking back, it seems almost surreal, just me carrying Juliana through the quiet, rain-soaked countryside, with only the sound of the downpour and the rustling leaves. I just remember Juliana talked a lot that day, more than I'd ever heard her speak. Perhaps she was worried about my stamina, trying to keep my mind off the exertion. We were two solitary figures on that long, straight road. Finally, we reached an area with a signal. After we got back, I don't know what strings Juliana pulled, but Marcus Thorne's faction was swiftly dismantled. Juliana emerged with complete control of Novatech Solutions. My status within the company also skyrocketed. Everyone treated me with newfound respect. And so, day by day, our wedding approached. And right on cue, news arrived that Adrian Connor was returning to the States. I knew it was time for me to leave. I also finally understood why Juliana had been so meticulous about the wedding plans. She must have intended all along for Adrian to be the one to marry her. That day, I was just the background character, the groom jilted at the altar in some dramatic, made-for-TV moment. Thinking about it, I was actually pretty happy. The 3-year contract was almost up anyway. I'd done my part, gained experience, and saved a nice chunk of money. To avoid any embarrassing, cliché drama, the returning old flame insulting the stand-in, 2 guys fighting over 1 woman, the stand-in getting humiliated and fired by the heroine, I decided to make a quick exit. First, I secretly sent my parents on an all-expenses-paid overseas vacation, making them promise not to tell anyone, not even Juliana or her parents. They were confused, but agreed. Next, I gradually handed over my work responsibilities. The day Adrian Connor was due to arrive, I slipped out of the country and headed to a remote tropical resort. I was confident they wouldn't find me. I hadn't told a soul, and I'd been meticulously covering my tracks, switching burner phones, changing rental cars, hopping between locations. I spent a glorious month like that, completely ignoring any news from back home, just indulging in carefree fun, until, finally tired but content, I returned to my hotel one evening, planning to move on to a new destination the next day. Except, where? Where am I? I woke up in an unfamiliar room. It smelled faintly of flowers and perfume, definitely a girl's room, and my hands and feet were tied. When I looked around, a cold dread washed over me. The walls were covered with photographs of me from elementary school, 3rd grade, all the way through college graduation. Every stage of my life, every expression, every place. Me eating, sleeping, playing basketball, riding my bike at my graduation ceremony. The photographer, whoever it was, seemed to have documented my entire existence. This was insane. A stalker? I panicked. Then a familiar scent reached my nostrils. A smooth, slender hand touched my face, tracing from my chin to my nose, then to my eyes, as if admiring a precious treasure. At the same time, I felt rapid, hot breath on my cheek. Juliana. I managed a strained laugh. Standing over me was indeed Juliana Vance. What is this? Juliana didn't answer. Instead, she leaned down and pressed her lips to mine, hard. A metallic taste of blood bloomed in my mouth, followed by an intense, almost brutal kiss, her tongue tangling with mine. When we finally broke apart, both of us were breathless, faces flushed, a thin, glistening thread of saliva connecting us for a moment. Juliana, you? Haha, you're aroused. She purred, her smile a little unhinged. All those nights stimulating you, making sure we were perfectly attuned, it wasn't in vain. Her smile turned somewhat predatory as she caressed my face again. Why did you run, Alex? I love you so much. I would give up everything for you. Why did you run away? I was speechless. This woman was completely nuts. Ha ha ha. Juliana, you must have me confused with someone else. I'm not Adrian. I'm Alex Miller. Let me go? You should be looking for. Before I could finish, Her mouth was on mine again, a devouring kiss. I know exactly who you are, Alex Miller, she hissed against my lips, her face flushed, her eyes burning into mine. Huh. I was completely lost. Then my gaze drifted to the walls covered in my photos and to the familiar laptop open on a nearby desk, its screen displaying something I vaguely recognized Juliana often looked at late at night. And a horrifying realization began to dawn. You? She chuckled softly, then snuggled beside me. Do you remember, Alex, the first time we met? You were in 3rd grade, and I was in 7th. You got lost, and were crying. I found you, and we played together all afternoon. I still remember when I took you back to your parents. You looked up at me with those big, innocent eyes and said, "Thank you, Mississippi." It was like a jolt, an electric shock right through me. I thought it was just because you were a cute kid, but later, whenever I met other children, even ones your age or other bright, adorable kids, I never felt that same jolt that I felt with you. Until I saw you again. You were a freshman in high school. You were pushing your bike, laughing, and the sun was in your hair. The moment I saw you, that current surged through me again, so strong I had to turn and run just to go home and change my clothes. Her voice grew huskier, more seductive, until her hand brushed against a very specific part of me. It's fate, Alex. You even said back then when you grew up, you were going to marry me. I finally nurtured you to an edible age. I don't have to hold back anymore, do I? Do you have any idea what it's been like seeing you every day, terrified to reveal how I feel, scared I'd frighten you away? Although that particular desire, I fulfilled it quite early on. But somehow, I never seem to get tired of it, do I? I couldn't believe what I was hearing. In an instant, everything clicked into place. My getting hired at Novatech, her carefully constructed cold demeanor, the way she slowly reeled me in, cultivated our relationship, even those accidents and the persistent aching in my lower back every morning. I understood. I finally understood everything. Seeing the dawning comprehension on my face, Juliana no longer held back. She whispered, "Now I'm going to punish you." And then her bedroom was filled with a symphony of very particular sounds. Okay, I surrendered. I'd wanted to struggle, but in battle after battle, I was forcefully reminded who was in charge. Any attempt to turn the tables and become the master was met with a surging and overwhelming tide that left me gasping. 12. Later, I asked, "So, what was the deal with Adrian Connor?" Juliana, nestled in my arms, giggled. "Jealous? I love it." Seeing my persistent questioning gaze, she explained, "Because your wife is just too popular, darling. If I'd gone after you directly from the start, you probably would have been targeted by some nasty, jealous types. That's where Adrian came in. He's gay, and back then, he needed a cover for his relationship with his boyfriend, so he proposed we cooperate. Later, as we got older and established ourselves, Adrian bravely came out and moved abroad with his boyfriend. They got married there. He came back this time to officially announce their relationship to everyone." I see. My entire worldview had been shattered. I lay there holding Juliana, staring blankly at the ceiling. "Another round?" she purred. "Huh." Eventually, we had a grand wedding. All our friends and family came to celebrate with us. At the reception, I saw Adrian Connor and his boyfriend locked in a passionate embrace, looking over at us with knowing smiles that sent shivers down my spine. Later, he invited me over to his place. I declined firmly. It was because once when I'd had to drop off some documents for Juliana at their apartment, I'd accidentally witnessed a rather intense scene in their living room. Let's just say it made me want to keep a very, very wide berth for the rest of my life. Decades later, Juliana and I, gray-haired and content, sat on our porch swing, holding hands, watching a dozen or so grandchildren chase each other across the lawn. Thinking back on those early days, we couldn't help but laugh. "Still planning to run away?" Juliana teased, her eyes sparkling. Never again," I chuckled. "You caught me, and I'm yours for life." She smiled and I smiled back. Our hands tightened their grip. All those years hadn't diminished our feelings for each other. If anything, they had only grown deeper, more entangled, impossible to separate.